I'm Nora Duncan, State Director for AARP Connecticut. Welcome to another episode of Coffee and Tea with AARP CT, an interview series on the issues important to people 50 plus in Connecticut and their families. Today, I am joined by Commissioner Ron Welch of the Connecticut Veterans Affairs. Veterans outreach is important to AARP, and I'm thrilled to have him joining us for the first time. AARP Connecticut volunteer and executive council member Jean Keith is joining us as well today. Jean brings the perspective of a veteran to today's conversation. Before we get into the meat of the conversation with the commissioner, Jean, I'm going to ask you to just tell us a little bit about your service and what you do for AARP.
Thanks, Nora, and welcome, Commissioner Welch. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
I was a sergeant in the Air Force. I joined the Air Force during the Vietnam War. I served from 1970 through 1974. I was stationed at Clark Air Base in the Philippines for 15 months. We worked with classified encrypted messages. And as a side note for fun, sometimes we would go to Subic Bay, which is a naval base in the Philippines. They had the latest music and stereo equipment. Apparently, the Navy had the best stuff at that time. Yeah. But also, on a more serious note, we would sometimes visit the injured at the 13th Air Force Hospital on our base. After the Philippines, I was sent to McClellan Air Base, just outside of Sacramento, California, to complete my service. No matter what branch of service, I found you can relate with another service member on some level. It was a great experience for me, and I really enjoyed it. As for AARP, I joined AARP in 2018. I've been with this great group of people for 8 years. As Nora mentioned, I'm with the executive committee as a member. I also participate with the Smart Driver course as an instructor, car fit technician, an advocacy volunteer, fraud fighter volunteer, and this has also been a great experience for me.
Thank you so much, Jean, for your service and for sharing all you do as a volunteer with AARP. So, Commissioner, I understand you're a Connecticut native, which is great. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your service, and Connecticut Veterans Affairs.
I'd love to. So first off, Nora and Jean, thank you so much for having, on behalf of our team, thanks for having me on your show today. I've heard a lot about AARP and all the great work you do. We have a national committee called the National Association of State Directors of Veteran Affairs. We meet every 6 months. We were just down in DC in early March, and Peter Jeffries, one of the executive directors down there, he always talks about all the programs, services, and everything they all have to offer. But getting to your question, Nora, yes, I grew up in southeastern Connecticut. I went to East Lyme High School. I was not a scholar. I was more of an athlete. So football, wrestling, crew, state, and to the national level on the crew side. I did enlist while I was in high school, and as soon as I could leave after graduation, I was on a path to become an Army Airborne Ranger. That was my ultimate goal. And I was really moving forward. I hit all the gates, went through all the schools, and then sadly I had an in-line of duty parachute accident. I got medevaced out to an Army hospital, spent quite a bit of time there, multiple fractures, had some surgery, had some physical therapy, and worked my way back. And I ended up going to officer candidate school. At the time I got injured, I was a sergeant. Went to officer candidate school, got commissioned as an infantry officer, held leadership positions, everything from platoon leader, company commander, battalion commander, major command commander, and was able to deploy to Afghanistan from 2005 to 6 as an infantry advisor. Ironically, my oldest son ended up on the ground in Afghanistan. I was finishing a year and he was in the same battle space for a couple months. So, incredible, surrounded by a lot of people, and being able, tactical schools to strategic, about 30 plus, 28 assignments, started as a private, retired as a general officer. And really the key assignments I had towards the end, I was the chief of staff for about 6 years and director of our joint staff for a few years. But again, I can't stress enough, it's really about all the great people we serve with. And I hope everybody can keep those that are currently deployed and in support of in their thoughts and prayers. A lot of challenges right now, obviously global challenges. 2018, I retired in 17. 2018, I was hired by Easter Seals Capital Region, Eastern Connecticut, a nonprofit out there. They were building a one-stop shop center of excellence called Veterans Rally Point. So I was tasked with another member. There were a couple others that were heavily involved, but we were tasked to get this thing off the ground and going. We cut the ribbon Veterans Day 2021. That center has been yoga, meditation, employment, fitness center with a climbing wall, maker space with woodworking, pottery, sewing, commercial grade kitchen, and a bunch of other programs and services to take care of active military, National Guard, reserve component soldiers of all services, as well as families and veterans. And then I was very fortunate in 2023 to be appointed by Governor Lamont to serve as the Commissioner of Veterans Affairs.
That's a really great history. And I love that you, from a long line of nonprofit world and a little bit of government myself, I like that you turned your retirement into another career in nonprofits, using those skills that you gained over those years to really help people on the ground in the community that you originated from, especially. So that's really amazing. We talk about the legislative session on this program all the time, and after all you've done in your life, the legislative session seems like a complete walk in the park as compared to some of us when we haven't had quite the amount of leadership and skills in the real world as you have. But because we're in the legislative session, I wonder if you could fill us in on some of the priorities that impact veterans and the veterans family community that you guys are working on this year.
So Nora, I have to say, I didn't know a lot about the process until I became commissioner, and then I started to testify, and really interesting and challenging. So this is a short session. It started on the 4th of February. It'll wrap up on the 6th of May. And right out of the gate, the governor talked about a potential budget adjustment and having up to $1 million for transportation for veterans and others that were less fortunate to be able to afford some of the bus passes. So that's out there. But what I found out right away is there's appointed by the General Assembly a Veterans and Military Committee that we work very closely with. And there's two really good co-chairs. One is Senator Paul Honig, and the other is Representative Jamie Foster. They have two ranking members, Senator Jeff Gordon and Representative Mark Anderson. They work extremely hard. Last year during a long session, they got a lot of bills proposed and passed. So we talked about the bus passes. There's about 27 different bills that were raised when the session first started. And there were a couple public hearings. One was in February, the other was in March. A lot of discussion during those hearings. Most of the bills that were proposed did receive joint favorable status, and they were referred to the joint committees, and that's where they are as far as I know right now. Some of the real high interest things that are out there, one is called Troops to Trade, and that initiative would require us to work very closely with the military department, Department of Labor, and really solicit some reputable employers with our members and post some things on our site from Department of Labor. Also distributing a lot of information we've established a newsletter at Department of Veterans Affairs, so making sure that information is included. The military department was tasked to strengthen their state-based employment assistance program. And then we also were asked to work very closely with Department of Labor during our annual stand downs, which we normally do in September, the second or third week in September, and have a big employment event there. We are going to do that if this gets passed, but we may do a separate event. So there's a House bill called 5406. It's the Connecticut Heroes Act. And it's an act concerning an award honoring the heroic wartime service of certain veterans and reserve members. And this bill right now is it has some language in it concerning dental care and access for veterans that are not provided dental care by the VA. It also talks about training veteran service officers and organizations, primarily like nonprofits that provide services to veterans and families. There's another Senate bill out there asking us to do a couple more updates to our website, including some warnings on claim sharks that are out there and try to rip off our veterans. And then I think the last thing I would bring up is establishing a task force that encourages other nursing homes in the state of Connecticut to partner with the federal VA to be a provider.
Yes, I'm familiar with some of these. And I'd like to say we have participated in the last few stand down days and look forward to doing so again, offering up some of the free resources we have for veterans and their families. So that's great. Jean, I'm going to pass it over to you for the next couple of questions.
Yeah, thanks, Nora. Thanks, Commissioner Welch. What kind of services does the department offer in Connecticut?
The first thing we have is a skilled care center, and that's built for 125 veterans. It's highly rated. It's a 5-star rated, the highest rating you can receive for a skilled care facility. We sadly lost our oldest veteran about 4 or 5 months ago. He was 105 years old. I can tell you the care is extremely good. We have family housing. We have across the street on West Street, we have 5 houses called Patriot Landing. That is at full capacity. On the main campus right now on John Levito Lane, named after Medal of Honor recipient John Levito, we have 6 more houses. We just did extreme renovations on those houses with some AARP funding we received from the General Assembly, supported by the governor. And we have 4 out of 6 families. We hope to have 6 families there shortly. And on the top of the hill, we have used some of that AARP funding to provide housing for 6 more families and 14 or 15 more veterans. We'll have the ribbon cutting on that facility early summer. So skilled care facility, family housing, the residential program on the campus, traditional residential, you could refer to them as dorms, dorm rooms, 2 veterans per room. We have space for 150. Another program that we're really proud of is our cemetery memorial services. We did over 740 dignified memorial services this past year. We're expanding our cemetery now in Middletown, and long-term, we're trying to build a separate cemetery, a new cemetery to take care of those that require those services. So, we have wraparound services. We have a focus like every other veteran service organization on behavioral health. We want to do everything we can to assist those that are in a lot of stress and bring the number of suicides down. That's a #1 priority for all of us. Substance abuse, we can connect our veterans that are struggling with AA and other organizations out there. We also bring them on the campus. We have an internal veteran employment program. It's called VVT. It's a veteran vocational training program. It's not a big program, but it's all about trying to have our veterans start, with some basic tasks and receive a little bit of money as a ramp up to getting out and living independently. We have transportation available for the many appointments our veterans need to go to. We have a lot of recreation. We have great recreation teams over at the healthcare center and in the residential program. They take our vets fishing. There's a greenhouse on the campus. We have another partner that helps us on the hiking side. We take them on some skiing events. Occasionally there's aquafit program, day trips to equine facilities. The veteran coffee house is a big one. And we stood one up on the campus last year. We just recognized a bunch of Vietnam veterans at a coffee house recently, last Friday, recognizing the end of the Vietnam War, 29th, 30th timeframe in 1973.
How does your department interface with VA hospitals?
So we could never do this alone. We can't. There's community providers out there, and fortunately, we have probably one of the best federal VAs in the United States. If you go to West Haven, you're going to get care, world-class care. As you know, they're teamed with Yale. And up at Newington, they're teamed with UConn and some of the other medical schools in Connecticut. So we're using we're using their lab services. We're consulting with the medical professionals there, and we're transferring some of our veterans to those facilities when they need care that we can't provide. In addition to that, not just the hospitals, but the VA also has vet centers in Connecticut that provide behavioral health. They do an incredible work. They were initiated by the Vietnam veterans when they were treated so poorly when they returned from their service. And there's something else called community-based outpatient clinics. And those are basically clinics that you would get a routine physical, annual physical, and there's some specialties embedded in those.
Terrific.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's a lot of, you guys are doing a lot, and it's appreciated, and I'm not sure we all recognize it enough. So are there services dedicated specifically to seniors? I mean, you're talking a lot about Vietnam vets and about the skilled nursing facility, and good on you guys for having a 5-star. That's not easy to get, that rating from Medicare. So, but you know, what is sort of the typically things look like for seniors with you guys?
Great question. So there's approximately 146,000 veterans in Connecticut. Population's about 3.4 million. And they come from all 169 towns that we have out there. For us, demographically, we're an older state. Our civilian population, our military veteran population is older. Over 60% of that population are 65 years and older. So on our campus in the healthcare center, we do have memory care. What we would like to think about in our strategic plan in the future is something that is really taking off nationally, and they have a program right now in Florida, and there's one in New York, and it's essentially an adult daycare support program. Fantastic. It gives the family members a break, and it allows the veteran to be engaged with on the socialization side and take advantage of other programs and services. So that's the gap we've identified. You know, our folks aren't in some cases sick enough to be in a healthcare center, and they're maybe not able to live completely independently or in our residential program. So that's a gap that we identified, and we'd like to try to do something about it. It's going to take us a couple years to, we have an idea of how this could happen. Essentially, you know, establish the facility. Families could drop their vet off in the morning, pick them up in the afternoon, or perhaps we could provide transportation for them. But it's something we're very interested in trying to do more in that.
That's good. And it's good that there's a model in New York and in Florida for that. And it's not, you know, I'm glad you're looking at this, but it's a struggle. It's a struggle in the general community as well. So, you know, being able to find something specific for veterans in that setting would be really helpful, I am sure. So I think we'll hand it back over to Jean.
Yeah. Commissioner, do you and your team offer support for family caregivers of veterans?
So a veteran can potentially be admitted, and we can do some respite. They have to go through the traditional admission process, which takes a while. And if we were to do that, we would want to admit them for at least a month. It can be done. It's very rarely done at this point in time. In the last nonprofit I was in, out of Veterans Rally Point, we did a couple caregiver retreats, which were fantastic. You know, we brought in a couple therapists. We had kicked it off with yoga and meditation, and we shared some stories, those of us that have done caregiving before, and some lessons learned, which is very beneficial. The federal VA does have some caregiving programs. They have a program that in some cases, depending on the needs of the veteran, they can actually go into the home and help supplement some of that care.
Yeah, and if anyone's ever looking for anything, AARP has a treasure trove of caregiver supports for free, not necessarily direct services, but the kind of what you need to know. We have volunteers who can come in to any nonprofit or state or for-profit agency and talk to people about what being a caregiver looks like and how to prepare to care, et cetera. There's 750,000 family caregivers in Connecticut, so I'm sure there's a lot of them caring for veterans. So, Commissioner, what might surprise us the most about what you all do?
Well, at first I want to just say that few may not know we are a 24/7, 365-day-a-year program. We've got approximately 240 employees, extremely dedicated employees. We're always looking for ways to make things a little bit more efficient, where our infrastructure is challenging. This facility was built between 1935 and 1940. We have 40 buildings, 92-acre campus. We have veteran service officers out in 5 regions around the state of Connecticut, helping our vets process claims and for pension and compensation if they've ever been ill or injured. I think what might surprise some people is our motto is serving those that have served, and we've been doing that since 1864. So we believe we're the oldest home and hospital in the United States. So we want to make sure that our residents of Connecticut know that. We're really proud of that. And our roots were established by a very wealthy merchant named Benjamin Fitch out in Darien, Connecticut. The Civil War was raging on in 1864 when he cut the ribbon on the 4th of July. And he knew there were going to be a lot of wounded soldiers that were going to come home. There were going to be some widowed spouses, and there were going to potentially be some orphan children. So he built a home and hospital for about 500 people, and it quickly filled. And in 1935 is when a General Assembly decided they would purchase this property out in Rocky Hill. And we've been here since.
That is a history I did not know about. So thank you for that. Is there anything else you would like our viewers to know before we wrap things up?
Well, I just, on behalf of our team, we can't thank AARP enough for everything you do. Like I was telling you at the start, every 6 months I hear from Peter down and he was just down in DC with us, and it's remarkable what's available. So thank you for everything you do, supporting our military, our veterans, families, and our other seniors that have not had the opportunity to serve.
I will say hi to Pete on your behalf. I think I'm going to see him next week myself in DC.
Please
so, so with that, Jean and Commissioner, thank you. AARP has free resources dedicated to veterans, active duty, and military families that can be found at aarp.org/veterans. And AARP Connecticut is always happy to help bring resources to the community. You can just drop us an email at ct@aarp.org. Again, thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Jean. Thanks to those who serve. And really, probably they don't get thanked enough, but your team, Commissioner, at Connecticut Veterans Affairs for all they do to support veterans and their families in Connecticut. I always like to do a special shout out to our e-advocates who take the time to email their elected officials on important issues, and to our volunteers at AARP who we call the Army of Red-Shirted Volunteers, who are super active in the legislative session each year. You can go ahead and scan the QR code below to join us as an e-advocate. And with that, I would end with saying, I think back to the Commissioner's earlier point, there's a lot going on in the world, and our veterans who serve now, the active duty, thank you and stay safe. And we wish everyone the best. Thanks to you both.